Hey, I was very scared appearing for the ISC2 Certified in Cybersecurity exam because there have been a lot of posts in Reddit and YouTube videos saying it's a very tough examination, and this couldn't have been far from the truth. It's an easy certification, but it's not so hard. Okay, it's not very easy, but it's easy certification. I'm not sure if ISC Square has toned down the difficulty of the exam because recently I have given the exam. It seems to be not that hard. And a couple of my friends whom I helped to practice for the exam also cleared the exam and they didn't find the certification that hard to crack either. So I will show you how to prepare in this video so that it's easy for you to crack the exam. And the first, being aware of the technical terms and command on English language would play a huge role in the certification. If you're aware of common terms used in office for physical security measures like badge, tailgating, proximity sensor for ID card swipes, the type of doors. I didn't know. I have interacted with those doors, but I didn't know the name until I did the certification. For example, there is turnstile, there is man trap. So we had that in office, but I really didn't know. I know that, but I didn't know the name when I was giving the assessment first. Trial assessment, but later on I realized and I was like, oh boy, I knew that, right? So it will be easy. All you have to do is to know the names, and trust me, it's a easy certification. If you know that, you're off to a great start. So sharing the learning path from my experience, right? First, I would say complete the CC free training that they're providing. However, don't rely on it. Most of the Reddit posts that I've seen are the ones who just did that course and appeared for the exam and that they failed and they find it to be difficult because it doesn't cover all the aspects. Let's say you have never worked in a company which has access controls and all. It becomes hard for you to understand that. You don't have to have a lot of information security knowledge or experience, but the basic would do. Just doing that training is not good enough. Okay, so next, what you have to do is if you're short of time, right, I would recommend you to take the course of free training by Mike Chapple. Okay, let me correct that. The training is not free, but LinkedIn subscription is. They have this 1 month free subscription that you could try. So go ahead and do the training. So this is Mike Chapple, MikeChapple is what I believe, right? His training is very good. It is under 5 hours. And let's say you are someone who has a lot of time, you really want to know, then I would say go ahead and enroll for Thor Pedersen's training in Udemy. The name is THORPEDERSEN. So they will provide you 17 hours of training. So that's something he's pretty good at, but the only problem is 17 hours if you do have patience to sit through the training well and good. And you fall under the third category who really don't want to go through those training because you're well versed with it, you just need to brush up or something, then you can stay for the rest of this video, or if you are something new, I would say go back to the training and then come back and watch the rest of the video. Right, so then again, this is more like a brush up that I'm trying to do to cover the most important topics that I feel preparing for the exam, so that would be helpful for you to when you give your exams. And then again, I might miss a lot of stuff, so don't rely on this video alone, but do the Mike Chapple or Thor Pedersen's training video, and you should be good. And after that, what I would do is do a practice test questions, and you should be good, right? And another examination tip for you to do is do use the notepad that they provided. Okay, so if you are trying to answer a question, take the notepad that they're giving and write down the things, important aspect of the question, because when you read the question as a whole, it will confuse you. So if there's an important point, mention that point and see if there are any options that you consider. So once you write down on a notepad, it becomes easy because you're not distracted by all the questions in there. Another important thing, you have to go to the PSM view center, and the PSM view is very strict. So you have to carry 2 ID cards and you have to dust your pockets. They check everything. I kept my jeans in the washing machine. It had some it's a old jeans. It had a lot of some kind of a powder and thread which were falling off. Then they made me pluck all the thread. They want me to dust the back pocket, and that was a chore, right? So I don't want you to go through that. And another important thing, if you're going on a car, ensure that the Pearson View center that you're going for has parking set up, because the center that we went, me and my friend, they didn't have a car parking facility. So we had to go half a kilometer to park a car and then come back and give the exam. So that is something if you want to check with your examination center. All right, before we start, do note there are 5 domains in this. Okay, the first is your security principle, second is your business continuity, disaster recovery and incident response concepts, and third is your access control concepts, fourth is your network security, and 5 is your security operations. And the exam, you have 100 questions, you have 2 hours. However, you're only gauged for 75 questions. The 25 is a seed question that they put in. But the problem here is you never know which one is a test question that they put in. So you have to answer all the 100 questions. Before we get any further, I have to tell you this is very important. I'm sure you'll get one question out of it. It is to remember the 4 ISC canons. You will get at least one question. I'm sure about that. And it is very important to learn about ISC's code of ethics. There is 4, so you can look into that. This video is not a training session. Okay, this is more like a refresh and important things for you to know, just in case if you missed out on any of the trainings that you have done. And I'm not going to provide you in detail. This is more about, let's say if I say you need to know about network ports, you'd go ahead and refer about network ports, OSI layer. I will not be covering that because it takes a huge time, and this is more like a good to know stuff. With that said, I'm so happy that you're trying to get into the world of cybersecurity. If this is your first, don't worry, it might be overwhelming, but give it time. Trust me, you can do it, because if I could do it, you can do it, and everyone can do it. Right? With that said, all the best. And now let's get started with the first domain, that is a security principle. Before we start, I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to understand the difference between information security, the IT security, and cybersecurity, right? 3 have a lot of things in common at the same time. Remember, information security is the top, IT security is the middle, and cybersecurity is a subset of IT security, right? Information security covers everything. And another important is your CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Do note, availability has only one type of an external attack, that is your DDoS, denial of service. The rest are outages due to power, hardware, nature, or service outage. And most outside attacks are related to confidentiality and integrity. In confidentiality, you have something like a snooping, dumpster diving, eavesdrop, and social engineering. Remember the word social engineering, it's confidentiality. It cannot be anything else. And integrity, we have impersonation, man in the middle attack, the relay attack, and unauthorized modification. And another important topic to look for is your non-repudiation. It is about someone has done X thing, so they cannot say that they haven't done. So it's a way of proof, right? So that is another important topic. You need to know MFA, multiple factor authentication, the 2% integrity difference between it and 2% control. And at least I'm talking about, okay, you need to know the 3 type of authentication, that is the type 1, type 2, and type 3. There are type 4 and type 5, but then again, for the exam, I think 3 should be good enough for you to clear, as marks doesn't matter in this exam. So the type 1 is what you know, type 2 is what you have, and type 3 is what you are, right? And do understand the difference between this matrix in which you have the true, false, positive, and negatives model. So what is a true positive and what is a true negative? So that is important. And you have to know about risk management and assessment types. Risk management, you have assessment types, you have 2, qualitative and quantitative. The word quality is the word you need to look for, okay? When you say qualitative, the quality cannot be precise, right? It can be only be estimated. So we estimate it depending on the impact and likelihood. And we have the next is called the quantitative. The quantitative means you are trying to find for a number, okay? Quantitative, numbers matter. That is a math formula. That's where you use. You need to understand the type of risk responses like avoid, transfer, mitigate, and accept. Understand your change in configuration management where you get the baselines. And the next is your business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response concepts. ISC2 does a pretty good job for us to get confused between these three, right? Or even the responses that they provide, it makes us feel that they're trying to confuse us. They might ask you which one is a business continuation plan, but they make it sound like an incident response. So you get the point, right? So try to understand the differences. First, the incident response, it is to identify and contain the impact, right? And to bring back the operation as soon as possible of a negative impact. That's followed by DRP, in which it's all about saving human life and asset from a disaster. And BCP is followed by DRP, and BCP is about continuing your operation. And if you see a question in which it says what is the most important asset to save, if you see a human life, go with it. That is the answer. Human life is the topmost priority to save, and the rest are okay. Rest are also important, but they come later. And the other thing to keep in mind are the metrics for BCP, the RTOs, MTRs, etc. So just look for metrics. You don't need to know the formula, but you need to know what it means. And another important thing with ISC2 exam is you don't really have to remember what RTO means or RTO full form is or MTTR full form is, because they tend to abbreviate it. So even looking at the options, you should be able to crack it. And next, look into access controls. This is important. You will get a lot of questions on access controls, and I cannot stress enough for you to identify the difference between MAC, mandatory access control, discretionary access control, the role-based access control. You'll get a lot of questions on this, right? And remember, DAC is the only control in which the permission is not inherited by an attribute, okay? For mandatory access control, you have this labels, and for role-based, you have roles, which is an attribute. For discretionary access control, there are no attributes. It's a person. If I'm the owner of a particular file, I give the permission, right? It is under my discretion, so I'm not looking for an attribute. And where confidentiality is the most important thing, you go with MAC, mandatory access control. Where availability is the most important thing, you go with DAC, which is discretionary access control. And where integrity is the most important thing, you go with role-based access control. So that is something you need to remember, okay? And you need to know about the control types. You have physical control, you have logical control, you have administrative control. Another name for the logical control is technical control. Another name for administrative control is the managerial control. I need to understand the control functions. The functions are deterrent, preventative, detective, corrective, compensating, and recovery. So these are the 6 control types. And another important thing to know, a deterrent control doesn't work if the existence is not known, like a CCTV camera. If I don't see a CCTV camera, I will still rob because I'm not afraid of getting caught, right? So that needs to be there, right? Or a parking note saying that not to park. If I don't see that, I'll still park. So that is your deterrent control. And preventative control, irrespective of I see, I don't, it will still prevent me from doing something. So that is a gate with a physical lock or a logical lock. It still stops me from doing something. And another important thing I cannot stress enough is for you to understand the IEEE model, as well as your authentication authorization difference. Authentication and authorization, you have a lot of questions on that. And some important topics that I think here would be your least privilege, your just-in-time access, your zero trust policies, your PH information, and your PII, right? Personal identification information. So that is something you need to look for. And under network security, do brush up on your OSI layer, your TCP layer, and remember some important ports, something like your FTP, SSH, SMTP, DNS, DHCP, HTTP, HTTPS, POP, and IMAP. Difference between LAN, WAN, and PAN. PAN is your personal area network. That is something most people may not be aware of. Something like your Bluetooth is a PAN. Understand your MAC, IPv4 and IPv6. And you need to understand the wireless technologies. You need to understand the encryption, which is the strongest, which is the latest, and which is the least secure. And you need to understand type of firewalls. We have different type of firewalls. We have data packet filtering firewalls, which are the old. You have the latest firewalls, like an application firewall. You need to understand what they do. You don't have to know how do you start a firewall, how do you configure it. Just at least know what they are, what they do. So that's all the exam needs. And then you need to know what is an anti-malware technology. What do they do? And you need to understand type of LAN wires, like we have the twisted pair model, we have coaxial wires, we have fiber wires, right? So like the fiber wires are a little more prone to breaking, but they are more secure. Wherever you see the more secure, go with the fiber wire, right? And if you see something which is more susceptible for eavesdropping, you know the older type of wires they are, right? So remember, the more twisted they are more secure, right? So another question, if you see which is more secure, if it's a twisted wire or the untwisted, the twisted one are a little more secure against eavesdropping attacks. And if you see which one is the most economic and safest, the word is safe, okay, then you'll go with the fiber, not with the coaxial or the copper wires. Okay, so do remember that. If you see the word secure, that takes priority over the rest. If you only see which is cost effective, then go with the copper wire, right? Okay, and after that, you need to understand network devices like our routers and switches. Understand the type of threats we face, like virus, worm, Trojan, botnet. Another name for botnet is zombie network. So do remember that. And you need to understand the difference what classifies as a virus and what classifies as a worm. And then you need to understand the IDS and IPS differences. IDS is your intrusion detection system, and another is the intrusion prevention system. So remember, detection, prevention. The one detects, another prevents. So which one do you use in our environment? The answer should be both. It should be a combination of solution provided with which leverages both the solutions. Okay, do remember that. And followed by SIEM and SOAR, SIEM and SOR. The major difference is SOAR is the latest. It does all that SIEM does. Along with it has a response feature. That's what R stands for. And it has an AI built into it. So remember that. And another important point would be to remember network segmentation of network. That helps us in defense, security and defense. So that's something you need to remember. And then remember IoT of things, Internet of Things, my bad, Internet of Things, and cryptography and attack types. And do remember, if you see a side channel attack, okay, don't get confused with others. Side channel attack, always a cryptographic attack, okay? Remember that. Side channel, if you see, that's a cryptography attack. And another would be your understanding your cloud computing. So that is our private, public, and hybrid clouds, and how do they work. Followed by a security operation, I would say understand your agreements, your SLA or OLS, because SLA has some penalty that comes with, and some internal agreements they don't. So do brush up on that. And then understand the encryption type. We have symmetric and asymmetric. Remember, if someone is having a symmetric key, okay, and there are 10 people, they might ask you a question, how many keys do you need? The answer is, for symmetric, it's n into n minus 1 by 2. That means n is 10, 10 minus 1 by 2. So that is 90 by 2, that is 45 keys you need. Similarly, If they ask you for asymmetric, how many keys are needed, it's a simple math. You do it 2 into number of people. If they need 10 people, that means 2 into 10, that is you need 20 keys. Okay, another thing is hash. Hash is mostly used for password, but do understand what is hashing technology. Understand what is our data life cycle. Do note, archiving and deleting are two different processes. We might use the word interchangeably, but then again, they are not. Deletion is the final stage, not archive. Understand zero trust policy. This is very important. You will definitely get a question on zero trust policy. And then data classification. What are the classification labels? As well as security awareness training. Humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity. Okay, so we are more prone to attacks like social engineering. In order to counter that, security awareness training is. So if you find what is the best way to counter social engineering, go with security awareness training. Okay, system hardening, that is also important. System hardening is something like closing the default ports and only opening that you need, as well as installing specific softwares approved within the organization. So all this falls under system hardening or server hardening. And another important part is your policy, standard, procedures, and guideline. Policy sets up everything that is set in the management level, and the rest is based out of it. And standards are also important. So is procedures, and guidelines are not mandatory. Do remember, guidelines are the only thing which is not mandatory. Policy, standard, procedure, all three are mandatory. And understand your baselines as well as HVAC systems. HVAC systems, right, as well as the fire suppression systems. And other good thing to know would be your standards and governing bodies, and what are they and what they do. You have something like NIST, ISO, COBIT, PCI DSS. PCI DSS is for your financial thing, right? FISMA, HIPAA, High-Tech Act, Graham-Leach-Pillay Act 99, GDPR, and SOC. But I would say take enough time to understand at least DPR, which is the privacy, which is for Europe, right? This deals with privacy, and HIPAA Act, which deals with health, protecting health information, right? So this is important. I think I did cover the stuff that I wanted to, and all I want to say is good luck. Don't be scared of the examination. Even if you fail, remember, it's okay. The certification is free, and don't be afraid of all the things people are saying. It's not too hard. Okay. Remember to read the question and try to relate to your day-to-day activity, right? And the exam is hard because we don't understand what the terms are. Once you understand the terms, it's an easy certification. All I want to say is happy learning, and I hope you clear the exam, and all the best.